G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's been raining all afternoon, and we've just had a bit of a lull in the storm activity. So I thought I'd go for a walk and talk. Come along a lovely bush track down here close to my home and do another book summary today. And the book summary that I've elected to share with you and to talk through is called Bounce Back. Bounce Back by a female author by the name of Kahn. Susan Kahn wrote a book on bounce back. So what is bounce back all about? It's all about being resilient. It's all about being able to respond to the challenges in life in a productive way. And I remember years ago reading a book by an Olympic champion where he talked about the importance of having bounce ability, being able to bounce back from challenges, from injuries, from setbacks, and a whole range of things. So it's one of those key elements, I guess, that in order to be a leader in your field, you need to be have resilience and be able to basically deal with the challenges that you face along the way. Just yesterday, we heard the sad news that the New South Wales Premier, Gladys Berejiklian, stepped down from political life in order to answer some questions from the ICAC, which no doubt will drag on forever and a day and will make her life an absolute misery. But that's life, I guess, at the end of the day. We can be top of our game for as long as we can, but there does come a point where we need to do what we need to do to clear our names, to clear our reputations, and to maybe prepare a way to come back into politics at a later date. Time will tell how Gladys goes, but I'm sure that she'll figure out a way of dealing with her challenges. So according to the author in this book, Bounce Back, she says that greater self-awareness and understanding will help us to become more resilient and to find a way to work through all of the worries and challenges which will come our way, because we all have a quota in our lifetime. Nobody gets to live a worry-free life. I guess the older we get, the more we understand that regardless of how much money we have, regardless of our work, the people that we have around us, each person will be challenged in various ways, and they basically need to figure out a way to deal with those challenges. So the author here makes a very, very valid point that it's all about being flexible and adaptable. Years ago, I remember reading a book, I forget which book it was, but they talked about the importance of being flexible, being malleable, being like water, and that a tree, for example, a tree that is too rigid and is caught in winds will basically snap or break under the pressure of the winds. But if the wind is supple, if the tree is supple and able to flex with the conditions, then there is a chance that that tree will survive the storm and basically build strength in its timber. because they say, I remember somebody saying that the strongest timber comes from the trees that are knotted, the trees that are on the cliff faces, that have withstood the test of time, the winds, the fierce storms, to be able to continue to exist, thrive, and survive. So being flexible and adaptable is very, very key. And we need to learn how to survive the curveballs that life basically throw us. And we've touched on that before. And as I said, you see in sport all over the place. We've got a grand final tomorrow, and there are players, who have been injured, who have various challenges. Some will make it, some won't make it, and we'll see who's able to do the best and make the most of the conditions and win tomorrow's grand final. By the way, my tip for the grand final is Penrith Panthers, but we'll see. We'll wait and see how they go, because they're playing against South Sydney, and South Sydney is a formidable side. So the first formal point to come out of this book, so it's been a long-winded entry into this book summary, is that we need to accept that we're going to fail if we want to be successful at anything in life. The author makes that very, very clear. If you want to succeed at anything in life, you need to understand that you're going to fail, and you're going to have potholes and roadblocks along the way, and it's just a natural part of growth and development. But what the author here is saying is that the ones who make the most of those failures and those challenges, the ones who learn from their failures and are able to leverage from their challenges, are the ones who are going to have the better outcomes. So it's not about what happens to you in life, but what you do about it, which determines your path and your ultimate destiny. So we've got plenty of examples around us, from our work life, from our personal life, people who have failed time and time again, but they haven't stopped trying. Examples such as Thomas Edison, J.K. Rowling, and the list just goes on and on. Michael Jordan is another example. There are just so many people who are now leaders in their field, who at one point in time could have very well have given up, and you would have probably recommended that they give up, given the amount of failure and the amount of challenge that they faced along the way. But what we learn this from our careers, we learn it from investment, we learn this in finding love and raising families, that we basically need to take risks. We need to be risk takers, and to understand that failure is part of the output. But we need to fail, and we need to fail fast. That's a big point. Don't waste too much time failing at any particular pursuit. If you're going to fail, make sure you do it fast, and then learn from it and move on, I guess, is one of the key messages from this author. The second key point to come out of this book is that we need to fail fast, as we said, in order to leverage failure. And it's good to stress test ideas. Some of the best organisations that I've worked in spent a lot of time stress testing ideas before they went to market, before they were implemented, to make sure that they, saw the solution from the client's perspective and tried to second guess where possible, whether or not their product was bulletproof, or whether or not it needed continual incremental improvement and change. But sometimes having a devil's advocate as a friend or somebody in the team who can help stress test an idea is a great way to make sure that your products, your ideas, and also your own personal endeavours are honed and fine-tuned to enable you to reach your maximum potential. The author then goes on to state something pretty obvious, but a lot of people don't really get it, that if you don't want to fail, if you want to guarantee that, that you survive or you don't get failures in your life, then the way to do it is to never try. By never trying, you're never going to fail. But by not trying and not risking failure, you're never ever going to be leader in your field. You're never going to learn the valuable lessons that you need to learn in order to grow and develop and to hold you in good stead in your future endeavours, whatever they may be. So let's not worry about failure. Let's not get caught up about it. Let's not become perfectionists and want things to go perfect all the time, because that is going to end up in tears as well. But to do whatever you can, stress test and be on guard, but allow yourself to fail. But as we said, bounce back, recover from failure, and use that failure to leverage future growth and development and opportunity. So we mustn't get trapped in familiarity, which basically is suggesting and saying that we need to live outside our comfort zone. And I remember reading a book or doing a book summary once where the author says we need to lean just a little outside our comfort zone all the time in order for us to grow and develop and to discover new things and to develop new skills and to increase our network and all the things that we need to do in order to enjoy purposeful practice. Because once you get good at something, you tend to start to become risk averse. And you see this. You see this in business, you see this in sport, you see this in personal achievement, where the more money people make, the more they do, the more they become risk averse, the more they back off. You see it in sport. A team could be leading at half time because they're aggressive, because they're offensive, and they attack. And then as soon as they decide to become defensive and to defend the lead, then the momentum of the game changes. And it changes in a way which impacts the outcome. And you see it all the time, especially in sport. So I guess the trick from this author is that you need to maintain your risk profile. By all means, be cautious, not to be reckless, but you mustn't change the formula. The formula that got you where you are needs to be the formula that you keep in, because that obviously that works for you. So what the author is basically saying, the key call to action from this book and this author, and from many, many authors that I read, is that we need to learn to embrace failure and to ensure that failure is quick and not damaging. We need to embrace experimentation. We need to continually experiment, innovate and change in order to increase our skills and make us better at what we do and how we do it. Got to be careful I don't slip down here into the river, into the creek. It's a hard lesson to learn, because when you're young you can make lots of mistakes. Now, when you're young, you can make mistakes in love, you can make mistakes in business, you can make mistakes in career. But there comes a point where, you get to a certain age and a certain standing, as we said before, and the mistakes that you make could be very, very damaging. Now, you see people divorcing, in their mid-40s or early 50s. And it's really, really hard to fight back and to find purpose once you've eventually made a mess of your life at a time where it's harder to bounce back, I guess is the key message. Because the opportunities in this world, the opportunities in Australia, are mainly for the emerging talent. You see it all the time. Australia favours emerging talent, young people. So if you miss the opportunity, or if you basically fall off the carriage at a particular point in time when you're a little bit older, it's harder to recover from the challenge that you've created for yourself. Interestingly enough, my spiritual father, Father Dimitri, always says, and this is a very powerful message, a powerful life message, is that it never ceases to amaze him how many people who have fantastic lives, great jobs, wonderful families, tremendous health, great businesses, you name it, everything they touch turns to gold. He says it never ceases to amaze him how often he sees such individuals with such promise, surrounded by so much excellence. They basically go out of their way, according to Father Dimitri, they will go out of their way to stuff up their lives. Think about it. He says that people who have everything, who have a perfect life, will sometimes just keep on pushing the envelope until they get to a point where they destroy everything. So there's a lesson there as well. So it's a fine balance between continuing to push and be, gung-ho, risk on. And there comes a point where you just need to maybe back off a little bit and just understand that you're playing with high stakes, because the more you have, the more you can lose. But as we mentioned earlier, if you back off too much and if you take your eye off the ball too much, then you can have other challenges by not being able to maintain and keep the momentum. So the author then goes on to say, well, what enables us to bounce back? What is the key ingredient that helps people bounce back? And he says that purpose, the why, having a strong and compelling why, is the thing that enables you to bounce back even when things get rough. So even when things get rough, if you have a strong purpose, a compelling reason for being, then you're always going to find the energy. You're always going to find the way. But if you don't have a compelling purpose, then what's the reason? What's the need for bouncing back? That's why you see a lot of people who are down and out, people who are facing challenges. But the reason why they're facing challenges is that they don't have a compelling and a strong why. I remember when I used to work at IBM many years ago, I had a manager there by the name of Greg Gleason. Fantastic, a very, very clever individual. And he said the most important thing is to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and to have a compelling reason, a compelling future, to live with positive expectancy is what he used to say. And he also used to say that if you change, he says, James, if you change, your whole world will change for you. So, and he was one of the first people to put me on to personal development, and he recommended back in the mid or late 80s, to read a book called Think Big. And I remember reading that book, and he made sure that I read it, and he'd continuously pepper me with questions just to make sure that I got the key points from that reading. So it's important to know what you are doing and why you're doing it. My wife always asks me, now what's the purpose? Why are we doing what we're doing? And sometimes I just look at her with a dumb, blank look on my face because I haven't thought about it. And yet other times we know, given that we're parents, given that we've got children and grandchildren now, that a lot of the things we do is for our family, is for our children, our grandchildren, and to help them have a compelling future as well. Because according to this author, the why gets you through the hump and through the tough times. Every road, every path in life, especially every path that is worthwhile pursuing, because not all paths have humps, but the ones which are worthy and worthwhile tend to have a hump. And in order to get over that hump tends to be in the beginning. In order to get over that hump, you need to build momentum. And that momentum comes with the why and knowing what the goal is and what the reason is, so that you can maintain the purposeful push forward. So as soon as you get those early challenges, instead of giving up and saying, I'll do something else, you're able to convince yourself that it's worthwhile, you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you just continue to do it. So it all takes one thing, and one important thing: emotional investment. You need to be committed to what you're doing for as long as you're doing it. And I'm not saying having blind commitment and just continue to do things that are not working for you. Now, there comes a point where you'll need to assess whether or not the investment that you're making, the commitment that you're making, is going to help you achieve the goals that you want, that you've set for yourself, that align with your values, and still fire you up and get you waking up early in the morning and staying up late at night. The author here reminds us that the Japanese have a word for it, and it's called ikagi. And it's a reason for being. Now, we all have a calling, we all have a number of callings. And it's for each and every person to identify and understand what their calling is, and to try and achieve that destiny by doing what they have to do in order to get to that end point. So in order to understand what your calling is, what your reason for being is, the author here reminds us that we need to ask certain questions, certain empowering questions to help wake us up and fire up our spirit and create purpose and magnetism that attract us and propel us to our goals. So the questions that we need to continually ask ourselves and be honest with this is, what do I love doing, or what do you love doing? What are you good at? We all love doing lots of things, but if we're not good at it, then you need to ask yourself, if I'm not good at it, am I ever going to be great at it? And if you want to be great at it, then you need to invest in training and do things that are going to help you become good at the things that you love. And you also need to ask yourself, what does the world need? What does the world need from me? What am I going to leave behind? what am I going to contribute to my family, my friends, my organisation, my church community, my culture? What am I going to help create, contribute, preserve? There's so many different things that we need to consider, and we need to ask ourselves, what are we going to do to leave our legacy? And the other thing the author also says, and it's not probably a high priority, but what can you get paid for? What are the things that you can do? What are the things that you like doing? What are the things that you're good at? But also, what are the things that create value? Create value to you, your family, your friends, your community, but also things that contribute money, because we need money. We all need money in this society to pay the rent, put food on the table, to educate our children, to cover our health expenses, to help others. And I'm not talking about making vast sums of money so you can blow it on cars and gambling and all that sort of thing. I'm talking about accumulating your fair share, your fair quota of money in order to help you live a life and to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, which of course align with what God wants you to achieve as well. So there you go, bounce back. Thank you very much for joining me on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. We're still in lockdown, so I'm still in my LGA, staying within the 5 kilometres at the moment, trying to do the right thing. I had planned to go up to Nelson Bay this weekend. I've got a unit up there with my wife, and we've just put in a new kitchen, but we need to go up there and organise some pots and pans and cutlery and plates, and remove some items from the unit in order to rent it out and put it on the market. But Paula rang New South Wales government, and they said that unless it is an absolute emergency, stay in Sydney, don't leave your LGA, because that's the health order. So we're abiding by that health order. So thank you once again. Once again, we just went through a book summary entitled Bounce Back by Susan Kahn, which had a number of very interesting, useful lessons that we can incorporate into our inventory of skills, and at least think about some of these things, or better still, embody them and pass them on to others around us. Become an example for others to follow, rather than a warning for people to steer clear of. So take care, everybody. Have a good long weekend. I look forward to coming to you again from a different location with a different message of empowerment. And it's been a great opportunity to catch up, where we can become partners in each other's growth and development, and for you to vicariously join me on this walk through the park and make the most of this beautiful nature that we have around us here in suburban Sydney. So I'll leave it there. Yassas, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.